I want to know why things float, especially why do big, heavy boats not sink in the ocean? Why do they float? Has anybody got some ideas for me? Robert.
I think that they don't float because
Judy Hanlon is a fourth grade teacher in Somerville, Massachusetts.
How like it's curved, I think it's designed that way so it'll like float above the water and not sink.
Okay. Michael?
I think it's because really heavy boats float because like
This case study documents Judy's exploration of science teaching and learning as sense-making activities.
There's two things up there, flat wood.
The video traces Judy's efforts to understand her students' thinking about buoyancy.
A pencil sank, but some group had something funny happen to a pencil. What was the group that had something funny happen to the pencil? What happened, Tara?
The pencil went down this way, and then the rest of it stuck up.
So it was half floating and half sinking. Why do you suppose that was happening? So we're not sure about weight. What if I change the shape of it?
Judy saw science as a way for her students to explore their questions about the world. Following up on her own investigation of buoyancy in the seminar, Judy and her students discussed the question, why do big, heavy boats float?
Shannon.
I really agree with Daniela when she said that how floaties help keep little kids up, but I think that air has to do with boats because if water gets into boats, then the boat's gonna sink. So you really do need air to keep the boat up because if water gets in, then the boat's gonna sink.
What do you think? Is it going to sink or float?
Judy and her students continued this inquiry for several months. They experimented by sinking and floating various objects. They made predictions, collected data, and used their observations to make sense of buoyancy.
And that sinks. Okay, you're right. What about foil? Is that...
In the following segment, the students had just finished experimenting with clay boats and balls, and they speculate on the role air plays in keeping things afloat.
So what did you learn today, Stacy?
I think that I figured something out. I don't think it has anything to do with the shape or anything anymore. Now I think it just has something to do with the amount of air in it because when we made a boat, right, we accidentally closed it up once and we put it in and it sank, but when we opened it up and let air in it, we put it in and it floated.
So you think that air getting into it is what makes a difference. Sarah?
I agree with Stacy because we did put the boat in and I had accidentally covered it up, like it patched it up, and then I opened it more and I made it bigger, and as the air went in, it started to float.
So you agree with Stacy about the air.
Yeah.
Robbie?
I also agree with Stacy about the air because, like they said, when we put it in, but when she accidentally closed it up, we put it in upside down and there was a hole in it and it sank, but then we opened it up wide and put the hole facing up and it floated.
Just like a boat's opened up, just like a real boat, it's opened up wide.
So is that really putting air inside of it, Stacy, or is it
No,
just making it
the air
a shape
comes
on the
into it.
sides? The air around it comes into it? Shannon?
I agree with them too because when they said that it has to do with the air, because like even with boats, like if the water gets into the boat, it starts to sink. I think it's because if the water gets into something, then it makes it heavier, and so it just starts to go down.
So if the water gets into it, it makes it heavier.
Yeah.
So a small piece of clay I can't make into a boat?
As the class's investigation continued, new questions and complexities arose. Judy challenged her students' ideas about weight, shape, and air. To push her students' thinking further, she systematically varied the shape of one piece of clay while holding its weight constant. In the following segment, the students discussed how the sides of a boat affect its buoyancy.
I just put the clay in like this and it sank. I just put it in and it sank.
Why is that? What do you think? Robert made a clay boat, but it looks a little different than the one I made, and it sank. Why? What do you think was the difference?
Because it was too airy enough. It's too small, not airy enough.
There's not airy enough?
It needs to be taller on the sides. Because it goes down a little bit and the rest sticks
deeper,
up.
so there
So it
more
needs to
air
be,
can get
yeah, deeper.
so more air can get in.
Because if
The little one, or way the little one
made
first.
the sides bigger, it would probably float.
If I made the sides bigger, sit down, Stacy. We made the sides bigger. Okay, remember that for a minute, okay? So Joshua says if I make the sides bigger,
Because I made a boat when we did it the last time, and so it sank, and then I made the sides bigger, and then it floated.
I'm making the sides bigger. Joshua said make the sides bigger than the one Robert did. Would you say those sides are bigger than the one you did, Rob? And do you think it's going to make a difference? Joshua says make the sides bigger, and Stacy said if I make the sides bigger, more air can get inside.
Then make it deeper.
See, it floats.
No, it's-
But you need to make it a
so
little
I have to
bigger.
make the sides even bigger.
And you have to make it deeper. So
Because I reach down and push it down.
That's as big as you can get and as deep as you can get it without breaking it.
Okay, there it goes. It's floating. So I made the sides bigger. So Stacy says it's because more air is inside. So it has to be bigger than this to float?
A bit later in this class, one student wanted to know what would happen if a small piece of clay was made flat.
See if I can do it.
When it sank, the students urged Judy to make it into a boat, then worried that it wasn't big enough to float.
Josh says it's not big enough. You think I can't get enough air into it.
because it's too little.
Okay, let's see. See if I can get it to float this way.
It floated.
So I got it to float. So is not big enough a good, does that work, Josh? I could float it even though it was very small. 3 different shapes. Same exact weight. What do you think? Josh, last person.
I think it has to do with the shape, the weight, and maybe a little bit to do with air.
Why? What made you say that today?
Because the shape, when we changed the clay into a boat, it floated, even with the small clay. So it might have to do with the shape.
Okay.
But I'm not sure about the weight.
Not sure about the weight. And the other thing you said was
Air.
the air. And you think that has something actually to do with the shape, because when we had the shape a different way, you think more air got into it.